Hello, and if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We are Remarkist, communities of fans who watch television shows and movies together virtually, but as if we're in the same room, gathered around the same television. We do this using the Clubhouse app, and we would love to have you join us for future watches. You can simply make an account on Clubhouse and search for our name, Remarkist, to find our club. Or if you'd like more information about the project as a whole, please visit remarkist.com to learn lots more about who we are and what we do. As for our recordings, remember that we always get our episodes started but paused at the 0-second mark and count down to pressing the play button together at the same time. That way, our experience can be as synced up as possible. You can pause this for a moment to get that set up, or if you're ready to go, let's get this thing started.
One more thing, sorry. If you're new to this, some episodes have a previously on. Skip past that. We always begin our episodes right at the start of the episode itself, after the previously on.
This one doesn't, though, John.
This one does. This one doesn't. Yeah, I know. I already saw that. But just in case it happens on Netflix or whatnot. All right, ready to go. On the count of 3, we're going to all press our play buttons. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there he is.
Taylor. So our first Taylor sighting. Is it the first one?
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, that he'd only been mentioned.
Ooh.
He's cool with Lorelai coming behind the counter.
I love that Luke line. Yay!
So this definitely confirms that there was the debate about whether or not the writers even had Michael Winters in mind yet when they mentioned his name in the Cinnamon's Wake episode. So I mean, obviously they did. This was only 2 episodes later, so they'd already been, casting this character and whatnot.
Yeah, I think when we were having that conversation, I could not remember how early Taylor comes into the picture and whether or not it was even really a season 1 thing at all. Like he definitely doesn't become, like, I don't think we have the town, I don't know when our first town meeting is, but I don't know how big of it'll be interesting to see how big of a role he plays this season, I guess.
I think one of the first town meetings, I think he's maybe halfway through the season. Maybe.
Yeah, I just get so excited when I see Sally's brother's name on the screen now.
That's what they call it in Rochester, New York as well.
I've been so acclimated to Utah that I've called it soda for the last 9 years, and my sister almost killed me.
I call it soda.
It's pop in Canada.
Anytime someone asks me if I want to pop, I'm like, do I want to pop what?
It's pop here in Iowa.
Sometimes I call it soda pop.
Thank you, heard round the world.
My favorite line of the whole season is about to come, and I'm
Guys, that was a first kiss there.
Yes, that's why.
Oh yeah.
No.
That was like that was the true soda pop right there.
Oh, woo. I love that line so much.
Oh, the Lord.
It's crazy to me that she was like 27 there when she played 16-year-old Lane. In 50 years, we'll all be old and Keiko will still be young. I love this scene. That's way too many groceries for them.
I was just thinking that.
Just made you moderator, Sabrina. Sorry about that. I forgot.
Oh, no worries. Looking at the groceries, though, it's really just condiments and Ready Whip, which makes sense.
I'm actually realizing that kitchen was actually in two different locations on the lot. There was, because in the revival, we were rehearsing at Rory's house, right?
Yeah.
in the garage.
No, in the revival.
In the, like, You're in the Life?
Yeah,
No, you're at Lane's house.
were we?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Which was Suki's old house, I think.
That's interesting, right? Like the way that Lorelai reacted to her not telling her about that kind of reminds me a little bit of Emily's realization that she never told her that she broke her leg.
Well, think about it. They're best friends. They tell each other everything. That's the one thing that she doesn't know. I mean, my best friend wasn't too happy. Wouldn't be too happy either.
This is so classic teenage girl, cyber stalking now.
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder how Lane got all this information without Facebook.
I know. I was saying the same thing when you said cyber stalking. I was like, there's no cyber stalking at this point, is there?
Best friend stalking.
Yeah, that's
Maybe he's been on Netscape Navigator posting. I don't know what that is. Was this before MySpace? I don't remember when MySpace came out.
Yeah, it was before my.
Yeah, it was before MySpace. Posting about his love life on forums. Why is his notepad there? He doesn't have a fanny pack. There is a perfectly good pocket that's like notepad size though on his flannel. Right? I just noticed there's a guy working for Luke that we'll never see again.
I just noticed that he just poured like a dribble of coffee into her already full cup of coffee.
They never fill the cup. Never ever.
Did you know that Alexis Liddell hated coffee? So every single time it shows her drinking coffee, it's actually like Coke or Pepsi.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It also drives me nuts when they have to-go cups of coffee and they're not very good at pretending there's anything in it because they're just walking around, flinging their arm all over the place. There's nothing in the cup splashing. I actually remember this happening in General Hospital.
Can someone give me the timestamp, please?
It's at 14:47, 14:50.
Thanks. I accidentally paused when I walked away.
By the way, you can always get the timestamp easily by just going to my Instagram Live, where I have a live video shooting a timer that is just timing. It's going at the same speed as the episode. So anybody whose video, their internet goes out or something happens, you have to pause it. Just know that the timestamp is always at my Instagram Live.
Okay, I did have to use that tonight, and I do find it's lagged just a little bit.
These are all real.
Yeah,
brands.
it's behind.
These are all.
Yeah, it's
brands.
behind, I think, by about 10 seconds.
They have real Apple Jacks and Iams and all of the Kellogg's products. I'm so confused.
Those are real products.
Early product placement agreements.
Maybe so. I mean, when I was there, I remember just being so fascinated by how all of the ridiculous names of things.
I love how he's like, can't kill the bad boys. Why not? You'll bring down the town.
I think it would have been too noticeable and distracting to have fake brands in the grocery store.
Well, there certainly were. I mean, that, like I said, that there were fake brands when I was shooting there. But, I mean, maybe that changed as the seasons went on.
Well, I don't know.
The fact that video stores are now totally like old-fashioned TV.
There's a great documentary about Blockbuster on Netflix.
Yeah, I know. I watched it.
Oh yeah.
There's only one Blockbuster, and I think it's in Oregon.
Yeah, that's what the documentary is about.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we ever see that cashier again.
Red vines are like, I'll say in a minute. Whoa.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do this.
Sure that that's a good idea.
Boundaries. Lorelai doesn't know what boundaries are.
It was coming from a place of love. It's just execution wasn't good.
I mean, that is really like taking after her mother. I mean, that's a full-on Emily thing. That's something Emily would do.
I agree. Except Emily wouldn't do that. She warned her.
She threw a whole birthday party like that.
No, I don't mean that specific thing, but just would sort of just make a decision. Oh my goodness.
And the fact that she doesn't know why Rory's upset is so quintessential Emily too.
Oof. I mean, John said it.
There it is.
Well, at least Lorelai said, I'm sorry. Emily didn't.
Wow.
She says she's gross. She has like the perfect porcelain skin.
Holy food coma.
When I was in high school, I went on a date with a girl and her parents and was invited basically by her parents.
I feel like that was horrifying. Did she have
It
fun?
was very uncomfortable.
Are you having flashbacks?
I just know how that whole situation felt for Rory.
And I know that she thinks that she's like the cool, fun mom, but if her mother had invited a boy over for his first date to be with her and her mom, like she would be mortified. I just cannot believe that she thought that was okay.
But she would, if Emily had done something similar to that, she would have reprimanded Emily. She would have said, "How could you ever think that Rory would like that?"
We could cut her some slack.
How many doors does this house have?
63. Just kidding. I have a really
It has 3 doors.
I love this rare glimmer of like vulnerable Paris.
That Pink Moon Volkswagen commercial reference is awesome because I totally remember that commercial.
Timestamp, please.
We're at 33:45-ish.
Okay. My computer froze.
That is actually a thing. I once listened to a Clubhouse where two people went on a date.
On Clubhouse?
Yep. There were two Clubhouse influencers.
One of the rare instances where pizza on TV looks good.
That looks very Domino's to me.
I think more like Pizza Hut. Domino's is so ugh.
Or Pizza Hut. Yeah, I mean, does somebody have a problem with?
Did someone just say ew for Domino's?
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't,
that was me.
I didn't, but it's not my preferred pizza.
It's a specific hankering when you don't want real pizza. Like if you want really soft like cardboard with toppings, that's your go-to.
For me, it's Mazzia's, and that's a buffalo steak.
Yeah, Domino's is a big ew for me.
As long as it's got pepperoni, pineapple, and jalapeno, though, I'll probably eat it.
I'm sorry, one more time for timestamp. Stupid computer.
36:05.
Okay, thanks.
That's like so clearly a joke, and it tells you exactly how Amy feels about the movie Magnolia.
That's exactly what I thought.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was one of the few VHS movies that my family owned. So I watched this thing a lot.
I'm sorry to tell you, there's probably a lot of us here who have never seen it even once.
Really?
I've speak for yourself.
How can you never have seen Willy Wonka?
What?
Not ever even a bit, other than in shows.
Granted, I've never seen Forrest Gump, so I mean,
I just saw Forrest Gump for the first time like 2 years ago.
Love that line. When the heart's involved, it all comes out in moron.
It's true.
it's crazy. Is she goes to the bathroom, but that's the closet, right?
I think so in like later seasons.
Okay. Oh,
Such a good last scene.
oh.
Yeah, that's a good moment.
So, John, it doesn't win you over like the last one?
Say again?
This episode hasn't won you over like the last one?
The last episode's still my favorite by far. Yeah, no, I like this episode. It wouldn't be, of the 7 we've watched, it wouldn't be near the top for me. But a lot of interesting stuff happened. I'd love to hear what folks think about something that sort of hit me like. Do you think that Lorelai actually, that part of why she brought Dean over was because she wanted to confront him that way? Like, it's not something that I thought about until the scene was happening. And when it was happening, I was like, wow, this is really surprising. This kind of came out of nowhere. And then I thought, was that somehow part of Lorelai's MO there?
I think so, because if you remember when she was talking to Luke in Dosey's, that she's like, he looks like Christopher, and her knowing exactly how Christopher operates, she may have wanted to kind of like scope Dean out, because like, since he looks like him, maybe he acts like him, and maybe wants to see if like it's gonna work.
Yeah, that like, that's what I'm getting at. That like, not specifically that she was like, I need to have a conversation with him, but more that it was not necessarily like the invite was necessarily because she was doing it for Rory, but that she was doing it for herself. Like, she was a little nervous about him, and she wanted to, and she knew that this was going to be that if Rory hadn't told her about the kiss, that likely there was going to be a bunch of things that Rory wasn't going to tell her, and that she needed to like kind of get in there now before this guy turns into a Christopher.
And plus, she doesn't want a repeat of like what she went through. So she's probably just trying to keep it to where like, okay, like now that she knows, she's like, okay, this guy's not totally like Christopher. I'll give this guy a shot type thing.
I don't know if that was part of her plan. I feel like
I
getting
agree
to know him was her point. Like, she wanted to get into position of getting to know him. But I don't know if the talk was part of her plan, especially if you consider that she was sitting eating popcorn, and if Rory hadn't come in all freaked out, she wouldn't have gone in to have the discussion in the first place.
That's fair, but where did it come from? Like, where did that moment come from? I guess I'm trying to understand, like, just from like a character perspective, like, why did she all of a sudden do that? That wasn't what Rory asked for her to do. And it's true. I mean, if she was not going to be engaging with them, for the rest of the night, then she might not have ever had that chance to say those things. So where in that moment did it come from?
I think it's because Rory came in and, was freaking out, and she gets a glimpse that Rory really does really like this guy.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's maybe the point where it changed for her. It's like, okay, this isn't just going to be like a passing fling. Like, this is potentially going to be a boyfriend.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if you saw, Nikki, I like flashed my mic, and John, I know you had wanted to like talk to me before we started the discussion. So I was like, wait, I'll just.
That's actually great. This is a great time to mention it. So I was actually chatting with Sarah earlier today, and Sarah's been on Clubhouse far longer than I have, and she knows a lot of the very interesting etiquette that has developed on Clubhouse, just using what tools they have. And one of them is what's called mic flashing. And mic flashing is quite literally when you just tap your microphone button like repeatedly, very fast, like you're unmuting it like this. Just looks like your mic is glitching. And folks on Clubhouse are using that in two ways. They're using it either to show like as a form of applause, like when somebody says something that they really like. But in conversations like this, folks are using it as an opportunity to kind of raise their hands so that people aren't speaking over the tops of others. I know I actually have a pretty bad habit of doing that, like sort of jumping in. But that might be something that we want to at least sort of be aware of, that there may be some of us here on the couch who are not quite as, they're not quite as much like into like interjecting in the middle of a conversation, but do want to say something. They may feel more comfortable doing the mic flashing, and we should just pay attention. And if we see somebody's mic flashing, treat that as like them just sort of quietly holding their hand up, asking, if they can say something at the next breather.
I was just gonna say that that is an issue also of accessibility too, where one of the hard things with audio conversations, or even with Zoom, is finding the gaps in conversation and being able to sort of read the cues. So having a visual cue is probably going to be helpful for some people. So that's great.
There's also something that they do on Clubhouse, that, not to turn this into a big Clubhouse discussion, that is also for
accessibility.
Is it what is it?
Just for accessibility.
Yeah, for accessibility for folks who are, I would imagine, visually impaired, right?
No, for people who are hearing impaired. So this is an audio only app, but there are people who are hearing impaired or deaf or hard of hearing who will use the app with a screen reader. And so a lot of times, if everybody is just talking, the screen reader, or not the screen, it's like, yeah, it's basically turning the audio into like text on a screen. It can't tell who's talking. It's just reading what, interpreting what people are saying. So saying who's speaking when you start speaking, and then saying your name and that you're done speaking, is something that you guys might see happen frequently in different Clubhouse rooms. If you're in other rooms on the app, it's just a way so that other people who are, using different accessibility devices to use their iPhone and participate in this app might be listening to us in a different way.
I don't think that we need to get into the habit of always saying our name. A lot of folks here are regulars, and we don't have many people on stage. It's something that you particularly see a lot of in really big rooms. And something else that Sarah and I were talking about is how I think that it's good that we are going to keep these keep the couch section to about 12 to 15 folks, so that we never really have to scroll our screens to see everybody who is speaking. And that's just helpful, because then you can just immediately, without having to search, you can see who's speaking at any given time. Anyway, where were we? What we were talking about about Lorelai and that last monologue.
So your question was that if you thought that Lorelai had done that like with intentions of speaking with Dean like that, and I don't necessarily think that she did it thinking like, oh, I need to have a discussion with him, because I mean, we're talking about Lorelai Gilmore. Like, if she has something to say, she's gonna say it. So I think honestly that she did it thinking it was like a friend move or whatever, like Lane asking Dean to join them for a movie or whatever. And then when Rory called her out saying like, that's something that like your mom would do, I think that was kind of like her wake up call, like she thought to herself like, oh yeah, that is definitely something my mom would do, but like that really stings hearing it come from your word, like your mouth.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like it could be, a bit of both, because I think that there's something that makes sense to me about having just been reminded of Christopher, like shortly before, not like exact right before, but before enough that it would be on her mind, and that if she thought that there was somebody in Rory's life that had any similarities to this person that we haven't met yet, I haven't met yet, that is supposedly this, like, kind of this person that has led to problems, I guess, in Lorelai's life, that Lorelai would want to get close to that guy as soon as possible. So, and Rory's clearly not letting her on her own. So it makes sense to me that she would just take matters into her own hands and say, I'm gonna figure out a way for us to be together. Because it really does feel odd to me that she made that choice, because I really do think that if Emily did something similar, obviously I don't think Emily would invite a boy over for movie night, but if Emily, sort of just unilaterally decided to do something without asking, Lorelai would totally reprimand her for that, would say, like, how could you ever think that Rory would like that? Cool. So it surprises me that she wouldn't have known that Rory wouldn't be happy with that, which tells me that maybe there was maybe a part of her that didn't care.
I have to wonder if part of it, the fact that she finds out that this kiss happened and Rory didn't immediately come and tell her, if there's like there's a fear, like, what else doesn't she know? And is this like the beginning of a potential rift between the two of them, and them, not having the same closeness, and potentially them drifting apart, like she drifted away from her parents?
Tasha, you wanna jump in on that?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna get good at this. This mic flashing thing, I think, is actually kind of cool.
Well, like, now it just seems like I'm having a attack here. Anyway, kind of going back to what I said earlier about how the whole Christopher thing, because it kind of, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it kind of seems like we're now kind of diving into like now relationships, and this will maybe bring up like things from like Lorelai's past, because as we all know, that obviously Lorelai got pregnant when she was 16, Rory's 16, and she kind of, obviously she knows what happened when she dated someone when she was 16. And I think the reason why, one, she had the talk was because she wants to kind of prevent Rory from going through what she went through, or kind of like saying like, you're cool and we'll give you a shot type thing. But also with like, I don't think like it's, I mean, obviously I've seen the whole series, so I know what happens, but I don't think the reason Rory didn't tell her is because like out of fear or anything. I think it's because, like, if we remember from, I think it was the pilot, when when Dean got brought up the first time, that caused a fight between them, and that was right before Rory went to Chilton. And kind of what Lane said right after the kiss, she thought you were going to leave school over Dean. And I think that's the reason why she didn't tell her, is because maybe she thought that like she would like lose interest in school and like all that, hence the "you will not detract from her schoolwork" kind of comment, Does that make sense?
Yeah, I buy that. I mean, I definitely felt for Lorelai in this episode, right? Because the one thing, the main thing that she has, that we know she has from the very beginning, a great friend, right? Like that she's like, as a mother, she's the best friend mom, and she knows that about herself, and she's, her and Rory have been together, like that scene on the bed that they have in I think it was it last episode or the episode before? I think it was last episode, right? The monologue.
birthday episode, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, so I definitely feel for episode because you know has been like everything that like so much. It has so defined who she is with Rory, and suddenly like she's feeling like either it's evaporating or questioning how much of it was even there, you know, whether this was in her mind. Am I just my mother to her, you know? And so I can see how Lorelai would make that decision like consciously, like, you know, I want to be near this guy. And I could see how just all of that would make her just a little flustered and just make a mistake and invite him over, even though it's a just terrible move.
Sorry, with the mic flashing thing, are we waiting to be called on or do?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. You know, and by the way, I'm not saying that we should just like mic flashing should be the thing from now on. Absolutely, if there's a lull in a pause, and especially because we have throwing this mic thing in, like this is our first time using it, so we're not going to be that great at it. And I also think it's typically used for rooms that are, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, very large. So it's also a way to manage rooms that are like, you know, could potentially get really out of hand. And we haven't gotten really out of hand. I think that everybody has been pretty respectful in terms of speaking over one another. So please feel free to just chime in if you hear a lull in. And then also Sabrina, if you see somebody flashing their mic, please feel free to as well.
I just have a bad habit of interrupting.
I was just going to say,
Mary, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think you may be overthinking her motivations, especially about the talk. I think the talk was very spontaneous. I do think she did want to have Dean around her because that's her instinct for anything that involves Rory. She's just involved whenever anything around Rory. So like you see in the first episode that she and Lane and Rory are walking down the street talking about how Rory and Lane can hang out at Hartford when she's in Hartford. I think that's just Lorelai's go-to is if it's something that's important to Rory, it's important to her too. And so I think that's where she was coming from. And yeah, it like once Rory said to her, this is something your mother would do, it put her in her place. But I think this is a new, fresh dynamic for them. Because like I said, in the past, they didn't keep their lives separate.
Yeah, I buy that. I just think that sometimes, like, I guess I'm not suggesting that that Lorelai consciously was like, okay, tonight we're going to go over to Dosie's. When Rory steps away, I'm going to invite this, you know, certainly I don't imagine it to be anything like that. But I do think that ever since this whole, like, wait a second, Rory kissed somebody and didn't tell me. And oh my, like, I thought that was the thing I had with her. And you know, that's the way that that I would be with my mother. And that suddenly just this natural urge and curiosity about him starts to emerge, and that starts to drive her to the point where, yeah, I think she makes a mistake that she may not have made if she had been, you know, told beforehand, hey, don't do that. But I think that it's possible to still say that behind that, under some of that unconsciously, is this desire to be near the person that is close to Rory. And it makes a whole lot of sense to me that if somebody just compared him to Christopher, that would also be somehow dug into her psyche as well and make this guy even more important to her.
Rory was gonna tell Lorelai though when she got home, and Lorelai was on the phone with the refrigerator guy, and it was like she was sitting there waiting to tell her, and then Lorelai was so frustrated, and she said that she was in a bad mood, and that I think that froze Rory up, and she didn't want to say something because she was already worried about how her mother would react. So there was that as well, that it was just like she was going to tell her, and then she chickened out. But Lorelai doesn't know that.
Do you think it's that she was afraid to tell her, or do you think it's that in the moment, like she was so giddy and excited, and then like it's like her telling her mom was going to be a buzzkill at that point because she was cranky?
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean by I think she just kind of chickened out, because I think she was excited to tell her, but she was also nervous. But Lane kind of, had convinced her, yeah, just go ahead, give it a try. She's like, okay, I will. And then she shows up and her mom's in a bad mood trying to deal with the refrigerator stuff. And she just kind of chickens out and doesn't follow through with what she was going to do when she walked in the house. But Lorelai doesn't know that. So Lorelai thought she was just trying to keep it from her. And it just kind of snowballs into what kinds of things sometimes happen with people who consider themselves best friends. A little bit of trouble.
Tasha, you want to say something?
Thank you. Kind of, okay, because so like keeping to the episode, but a little bit of a personal experience. I kind of have like I sympathize with Rory in this episode because, I mean, I got my first kiss when I was 15, and I at least kept it from my mother because I didn't know how she would react. But in turn, she already found out. But I kind of sympathize with Rory in that fact where it's like, yes, like my mom is my best friend, and kind of what Lorelai was saying to Luke, like we tell each other everything, and then Luke is like, but this is different. And like no matter how much you'll be best friends with like your mother or like sibling or something like that, when it comes to like dating and guys, it's like you're kind of stepping into new territory, so you don't really know, regardless of like if the refrigerator thing would have happened or not. That's kind of new territory that they haven't like explored before. So who knows how Lorelai would have reacted even if the fridge didn't happen, you know?
Want to say something?
Oh yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just think that little scene kind of, I got the impression that she was going to tell Lorelai, and then she just didn't because she thought her mother was already upset, and Lorelai kind of stormed out of the room, and then she never got back around to telling her for some reason.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think that Rory was super stoked that it happened and ran to tell Lorelai, and then when she was in a bad mood and she's like, "No, I'm cranky," and threw the phone, and Lorelai just kind of almost walked out of the room. And I don't know, it'd be weird for Rory to run after and be like, "Hey, Mom, that sucks, but guess what? I got kissed," because they were just in so different places. So I think Rory was just like waiting for her mom to just like chill out or be in a better mood. And then as things kept progressing, Lorelai is new to this too. So normally, if Rory had a new friend and Lorelai ran into her, she'd be like, "Hey, yeah, come on over, we're watching a movie." And I think that she hadn't yet flipped her brain from Rory has friends to Rory has boyfriends. And so I think it all happened really quickly, and that's how the scene ended the way that it did.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I agree as well. Can we just say how funny Mrs. Kim is for a second?
She is like,
is genius.
yeah.
The dry humor.
Yeah, Emily is she's a trip. She's so good.
And
That's a character really from like the moment that she joins the show, is just that like she has her character from beginning to end. I say that just knowing that will not be the case for Brian.
Where was Mr. Kim all this time?
We talked about a little bit about that the other day, and I think or at least I've settled on that it really just doesn't matter. That like it's one of those things where her character is so powerful that any man who was, or could be in her life just is not important enough to be in the story.
Doesn't he show up in the revival or something like that?
I think they put him in there just so it was like just so because everyone would talk about it. I think they just wanted to say, here he is, like he exists. And then there's, I think, in the very beginning, in like one of the first episodes, you hear his voice at some point, but then that's really the extent of it. Also, I just want to say as an aside, I've been waiting to say this for a few episodes, but I actually met Emily Kuroda totally randomly, and it was in the, like, I'll just tell this quickly, but it was in the funniest way because I was at the holiday party in New York for the Democratic Socialists, and it was like 500 like millennials and Gen Z, like young people partying hard at this like big Chinese restaurant, and I was just like outside with my friends, like about to leave, and then Emily Kuroda just was like walking up to the restaurant, and I said hi, and we got a selfie. But then she walked in, and I was like, I wonder if she knows that there's like 500 people in there right now.
I was just gonna say, I feel like we don't really hear them talk about Mr. Kim after season 1. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there, but I know there's multiple references to him in the first season, but I don't know if we hear reference to him after that.
I guess we'll watch and see, but I have to say, I want to give her credit in this episode that she clearly knew what Rory was talking about when her daughter was like, she was kissed by God. She clearly knew what her daughter was talking about, and yet she walked away and let them have the conversation, which is pretty cool for Mrs. Kim.
Oh, but yeah, actually, that's true. Like, that's absolutely true, because then she tells Lorelai exactly what they were talking about. But she didn't. Yeah, like she could have totally been like, Rory, go home, Lane, to your room.
Mrs. Kim sees all and knows all.
So even though Lane thinks she's being super clever, she still can't pull one on Mrs. Kim.
That's sort of that's a theme that runs through most of what I know or what I remember from scenes on the show.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the point, is that like no one can really pull an over on Mrs. Kim.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about powerful. This show has like really, really strong women, right? Like strong, strong from the writing perspective, right? Like very rich, nuanced female characters, but also just like really dominant women, right? And Mrs. Kim seems like she's probably like the Mike Tyson. She's like the heavyweight in terms of just like dominance in this show. I mean, more so than any others that I can think of.
The show is
she
so
gives
well
Emily,
casted too. Yeah.
She gives Emily a run for her money, but I think Emily can put up with her too.
You think been more of a dominant figure than Mrs. Kim?
You're going to about
it. Am I cutting out really badly?
I'm glad it's not just me. I was like, oh no, what's happening?
I speak, the poor connection comes on. Is it really going out badly? You can't hear me?
Well, you can hear it tomorrow when I send you the recording.
It's a little better now.
Yeah, I know. Every time I was speaking, it was saying poor connection, poor connection. There it goes again.
So what were you saying about my point about Emily and Mrs. Kim?
Hold on one second. I'm going to actually switch off of I'm sure that it's my terrible Wi-Fi.
I've always said that I would love to have like a Mrs. Kim and like just the Kim's spin-off. I think there'd be so much there.
I want their backstory. I want to know how they got Tulane and like into Stars Holloway. Seems like it would be very interesting to find out that.
Yeah, for sure.
How is my connection now?
Stellar.
Yeah, see, this is just my garbage Wi-Fi. It's just, and now Instagram Live dead. Oh, great. Awesome. Anyway, well, I've got you guys. So yeah, what I was saying, what I said is, I don't know how much you heard, but I was sort of saying that like the women on the series, right? This show's known for having these like really strong women, not just, very rich characters, really nuanced characters, but also just like dominant women, who take control. And of them, it feels like Mrs. Kim might be at like the pinnacle. She might be like Queen of the Hill in terms of that. And you said, Mary, that you think that Emily could give her a run for her money, but I still feel like Mrs. Kim comes out ahead.
Okay, we'll revisit in a couple of seasons, I think.
Ah, okay. This is, of course, just based on what I've seen in 7 episodes and what I remember of Mrs. Kim from my own episodes, of course.
Sometimes it's so hard not to spoil John.
Absolutely, and like I'm trying my hardest because I'm not basing it just on these 7 episodes. So
fair enough. Michael Winters, we got to see him. So we had talked about this the other day about whether or not that line, when Kirk talks, mentions Mr. Dozy, whether even the name Taylor Dozy had even been thought of by the writers. And I'd say this confirms that Taylor Dozy, Mr. Dozy, Dozy's Market, that this was likely all figured out, as they went into writing this season.
I actually have to say, I went back and I watched the scene, and what Kirk says is, the owner tells me you are one of the best customers.
Oh, he doesn't even say Mr. Dozy, or he just says the owner.
Yeah, so
Good
they may
catch.
have had it, but not included it in the script.
And what about the actual name of the market?
Yeah, they say that. Don't they say that in the pilot when, like, does she say Dozy's or Taylor when she's telling Dean where to go look for a job, when Miss Patty, like, when she relays it to Rory? Sorry.
Yeah, she says Dozy's Market or just Dozy's, but yeah, it is Dozy's.
Well, no, I think she actually said the market, but Patty said, I already sent him to Taylor Dozy or something like that.
I'm pretty sure she directs her to Dozy. She says, Dozy's is looking for a bad boy.
Well, what about their uniforms? Does it say Dozy's on the
It says Dozy's on the apron. Yeah.
On the apron. Okay, well there you go. I don't know. That's just. And I was also thinking a little bit more about this whole products thing, right? So whether or not Dozy's has products, doesn't, clearly. I mean, you could see it. Friskies, Rice Krispies, A1 steak sauce was there, so they clearly do have those. However, 100%, there were, when I was shooting in that market, tons of just fake things all over the place. And as we saw yesterday, Mary, she didn't get an Apple computer. She got a Wapple or something like that, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I think I want to go back and look again because it was a poor connection, so it may have been a real Apple. I'm not sure. I want to look at it again.
Something that I was thinking is what's also possible, right, aside from the clearance thing, is that the market would need to be filled with food, right? Like shelves would have to be like covered in food for any like wider shot of the market. And then any close-ups would be opportunity to put in like real things. Whereas if they have to shoot a wide shot, you're not going to have like tons and tons of real food and real boxes of actual product. You would just like, just create a bunch of things that look like the products, and then only use, a few cases of products, specifically because you can see behind her in that close up.
I would probably say you're probably right on that one, because I feel like when I was trying to look at the things that weren't right behind her, the brands didn't look exactly right, but again, they're not in focus, so it's hard to see.
Yeah,
I wonder if there's a rule about like how in focus or not, things need to be before they're gonna have to get like cleared. But obviously, like we could all clearly read like the Kellogg's and the Frosted Flakes and all that stuff.
But the clearance process on some things, it's like, like obviously, as long as the product's not being used in being used in the writing or in the shot as derogatory, then it's very easy to clear. But I mean, they need to know. They need to like know everything, right? They need to be able to see like all of that stuff, and some of that stuff is cleared. A lot of it is cleared beforehand. Sometimes it's cleared afterwards. Sometimes they try and clear something that they shot that didn't get cleared, and it doesn't get cleared, and then they're in the position that they've like I said, like I mentioned, where I actually had to go in and shoot an episode that we shot again. Like I had to shoot a scene again because there was something in the shot that was not cleared after they had already done it. And in those situations, they will either do CGI, where they'll like cover it up in post-production, or they'll reshoot it. And believe it or not, sometimes CGI is more expensive. So sometimes it's just easier to, like, oh, those actors are going to be here on set because they're already doing this scene. So let's just like schedule in a really quick, like get them over there, and we'll quickly do that scene again.
Question about the shooting. I'm a little newbie when it comes to this sort of stuff. The fridge scene, did they really put a camera inside the fridge, or is that a fake fridge and they can pull away the wall?
That's a fake fridge that they pull away the wall. Would that they can't have they wouldn't put up. I mean, the cameras that are shooting that show are massive. I mean, they're huge. They sit on they're the kind of cameras that have like a little seat next to it, and the camera operator is actually sitting on a little stool, and that's film. That was not digital. I mean, I don't think any of the series was ever shot on digital. That was all shot on 16 millimeter, what's called Super 16, which is it's like a larger film area than normal 16 millimeter, but not quite 35, and so it has a lot of the like really filmic look of a 35 millimeter film without being as expensive, and that's tough to shoot film, because there's like lots of like lighting issues, stuff that they have to get right. There in that pilot, I think it was either the pilot or the second episode. I don't know if you guys noticed it. It was on my DVDs, so it must have been episode 3 because I started watching from the DVDs on episode 3. But there was a shot where just like a big like hair on the film was there for a second. Did anybody notice that? Or has anybody noticed that at all during the series? Like that there would just be like this big like sweeping like scratch almost for a second?
Never noticed that.
Yeah.
But now it makes me want to go back and look.
Yeah, but anyway, those are the kind of like defects that you get on film that they Right, red vines. I just looked over at the at Instagram Live. I was just laughing at that red vines moment because red vines are like it's like water on a film set. They're everywhere. Like you like the craft services table, which is the table that always has food for the actors and the crew and whatnot. It it's some points of the day, it might not have very much. Sometimes there's lunch on it, breakfast, depending on the day, but there is always a massive tub of red vines. And when you work on a show, you just end up eating way, way, way too many red vines. I mean, unless you just like hate red vines and you never touch them.
Who hates red vines?
You eat them on side because I guess maybe they get them in bulk or something like that. But there was just always this huge tub of red vines, and so that moment with the red vines, I was just thinking like, oh my god, every act, like all those actors, like with those freaking red vines, like they probably all were eating the red vines there on set. We had a lot.
We don't have red vines here. We have Twizzlers, and for the record, I hate Twizzlers.
I was just going to say, I'm like, is this a U.S. Canada thing? Because I've never heard of red vines until today.
You guys are missing out.
Red vines. Who here knows what red vines are?
Yeah.
Flash. How's this? Flash your mic if you know red vines.
They're a running gag in
Twizzlers
the
in
Harry
the States,
Potter.
too. They're just
Do
not
they
very
taste the same as Twizzlers? Like, that's what I've just always assumed.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, because I've never
Twizzlers
tried
are-
them and I hate Twizzlers, so I just have never considered trying.
Oh,
red vine.
if you hate Twizzlers, then you probably absolutely loathe red vines, because red vines are kind of like, in my opinion, they're kind of an inferior Twizzler. Personally,
Same. Yes.
Twizzlers.
I used to hate red vines, and then I think it was about 3 years ago, maybe, that I had a red vine. I was like, why was I hating on red vines so much? They're amazing. And now I don't really eat Twizzlers at all.
Well, Twizzlers are there's a few differences. Twizzlers are glossy, and red vines are not. They've kind of got this like this very strange matte finish to them. Twizzlers are, I don't know, this might be why I like Twizzlers more. Twizzlers are hard to eat, like they're hard to chew. They, you really have to like, bite your teeth down on them and just like, just pull them, Red vines are really soft and chewy and just get stuck in your teeth, and just, you eat a red vine and you are basically eating red vines for the rest. Like you've definitely got red vine in your mouth for the next like couple hours.
That sounds a really good thing to have when you're an actor who needs to enunciate.
Yeah, maybe. No, it's not a good thing to have. It's definitely not a good thing to have right before you're about to go on and shoot a scene, because you might have like some red in your teeth. But red vines are just like, it's like it's the constant on set. Like anybody who works in film, they just know red vines. There must be like folks who work in craft services on productions, they must know something about red vines, that like where to get them super cheap or whatnot. I don't know, but that moment just like that was just a funny moment to me, because when I think of Gilmore Girls, red vines is one of the things I think of. I think of red vines, I think of coffee, and just in terms of the set, like my memories of actually working on set. Because most of the time you're on set, you're not actually acting. A good like 90% of the time that you're on set, you're just sort of waiting for things to go, or you're doing a quick rehearsal. And so you have just lots of time to walk over to that table out of almost boredom and grab another red vine.
I wonder if that's an LA thing, because I grew up in Cleveland, which is a pretty cheap place to make movies. And so I've been an extra, and I've never seen red vines ever on a craft services table.
Interesting.
And I I also think red vines taste more like actual licorice than Twizzlers do.
Oh
Which
yeah.
makes me a Twizzler fan because I don't like the taste of licorice.
Yeah, I guess it has more the texture of licorice. It's that kind of chewy, sticks to your teeth type of texture that licorice has.
Someone once,
as a fan from Germany, I was so excited to go into the USA and finally eat these red wines. And then I ate my first, and I thought, oh, they taste like plastic. I was so shocked anybody would eat these things. For me, it's not something anybody should eat in their life.
They're only good fresh, I think.
so I think like someone once said this about red vines. They think like this is what Twizzlers might have tasted like if they didn't put that plasticky is what they said, the coating on it. Maybe that's what Twizzlers were before they had the coating. I don't know.
Claudia, it's Babsy here, and I 100% agree. The first time I had red vines in the U.S. when I visited John for the first time, I thought exactly the same thing. Oh my God, is this plastic? Is this supposed to be candy? I don't get it.
It's so funny because usually I love eating candy from USA. It's really, really too sweet, but I still love it. But red wines is for me a no-go. And at the Fan Fest, we like got some in our gift pack, and I thought I just give it like to some other Gilmore Girls fan who wants to try it because I don't eat it. I don't like it. Yeah.
Hey guys,
I think Germany has a complete different flavor of gummy bears. At the Fan Fest, the Gilmore Girls Fan Fest in Unionville, an American fan brought me American gummy bears, and I was looking like, oh, what is this color? This looks so strange, and it's really horrible too. So perhaps we just have better gummy bears, Popsy.
Yeah.
Hey, so by the way, folks, I don't know if you just saw, but I just made everybody up here on the couch a moderator. This is something I'm going to start getting in a habit of doing. We're about to close the room out, or better way of saying it, I'm about to call it a night. However, I don't want to make anyone feel like this is ending prematurely. If people are loving chatting with one another and want to keep the conversation going, you certainly can. Anybody who is a moderator now can just, like, if I leave the room will not close, meaning that the room ends when the last moderator in this room leaves the room, whoever that will end up being. I've ended these by asking people if they want to be moderators, and I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to make you all moderators, and if you got to get going, get going. If you're in a conversation, this just sort of relieves the pressure of anyone having to, like, you know, say, I want to be a moderator. So that's what I'm going to do at the end of the evening. I'm just going to make everybody right before we end. I'm going to make everyone a moderator, and then, like I said, if there's a conversation going that, you know, folks want to continue with, by all means. Also, something else that I just wanted to mention, I need to get in the habit of doing that, is, you know, we all have this show in common. And one of the things that's cool about Clubhouse is that following other folks on here, the incentive is that the folks that you follow on here give you access to other rooms that might be interesting to you. So we probably can assume that if everyone in here is into the same thing you're into, in this case, Gilmore Girls, that they might be into other things that they might be interested in other topics and have access to other rooms. So that's just a long way of saying I'm following now everybody who is up here on stage and trying to also follow folks that are here in the room with us. This was fun. I wouldn't say it's my favorite episode, but certainly still solid television, solid story. I'm super excited to see where it goes next. I'm itching for some more Babette.
Just wait.
So I'm gonna head out. And like I said, if any folks want to stick around, please feel free to. Otherwise, we will see each other tomorrow at 7 o'clock again for episode 8. Bye, guys.
Thank you, John. Bye, John.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, John.
Bye.
Okay, who here has like seen the whole series? Anybody?
Hasn't or has?
Has.
Has. Oh, I have.
Everybody here has, right?
Oh, yeah,
Like
several
25.
times. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Okay. Can we